is going to be covering the Lidica plus Silverblade Aramintha plus Westwind Executioner Schuri Detonate Cleave. This Cleave mainly gets used against a lot of these defenses that have like 1 or 2 openers plus 2 to 3 bruisers. Stuff like Rinak with Dragon King Sharoon or Rinak with Witch of Mir Tenebria. You also see Spirit Eye Celine sometimes on there. And then the tankier units you'll see are like Emma Runka, Fallen Cecilia, Mort, Young Senya, Emily, those kinds of defenses. This is, of course, a Cleave team being used against Cleave defenses, so you do want to make sure that you're relatively confident in your speed. We are using 2 speed imprints here. This 4 slot is just... Vildred is nice for his AoE to clean up some defenses if you have him SSS, or at least S, I would say. And then some other stuff you can use here is like Water Fury. He has his nuke on his S3, plus some of the higher speed imprints. There's Fire Fury and Wanderer Silk, so they don't really do anything. I would say Water Fury and Vildred are probably the better ones, and then Westwind Executioner Schuri himself is also a speed imprint, of course. So just be careful about racing some defenses. Some people are pretty fast. We can go ahead and take a look at everyone's stats though, starting off with Lidica. So for Lidica, you definitely want the Restrict E on S2, just so when you're fighting Emily, she can't push up or anything, even if it's like a cheese fast Emily or something, nothing will happen, or against maybe some people running Warhorn or Lab Cube. We also have Renewed Will. It's honestly not a huge deal if it's not plus 30, just because Silverblade Aramintha on her S3 pushes back and stuns anyways. You also have if you put Lidica in the back slot instead of Silverblade Aramintha, even if your Renewed Will doesn't proc. So your Renewed Will, Silverblade Aramintha is going to cut no matter what, but if you're fighting a defense with both Rinak and Abyssal Yufine, and you're worried about your Abyssal, or you're worried about Silverblade Aramintha not cutting if Renewed Will doesn't proc, which will happen, then if you put Lidica in the back, you can apply the bomb from Westwind Executioner Schuri's passive, and then Rinak will just bomb herself with her extra turn. So it's not a huge deal if your Renewed Will's not plus 30 for this Cleave. And then besides that, it's just make her fast. It doesn't matter. Like you can see, my stat spread is a complete mess. It's just make her fast with whatever speed gear you're willing to spare. For her Molas, it's kind of just, I mean, honestly, you don't really need anything because she's just doing her thing, but I do just have her, all of her damage stuff. Next is Silverblade Aramintha. For Aramintha, you want her 260 speed, I would say, and then after that aim for like 200 effectiveness with however much attack you can manage. We're going to be holding Tagahulls so that Lidica can soul burn her S2 without any sort of problems. You want a good amount of speed on her, just so that after Lidica uses S2, you'll be able to push to 100% just with this passive here. And then if Renewed Will procs, you'll be zooming. For her Mola enhancements, technically you don't really need that much, but I think max out S2, and you might as well max S3 because this is a Cleave. And she deals a pretty decent amount of damage. S1 is not super necessary. Now we have Westwind Executioner Schuri. He's got his 10 speed imprint to all allies. And then for him, I have him like high 260s, and then 200 effectiveness with however much attack you have for leftover stats. For his artifact, I'm running him on Sash. Instead of Sash, you could also run something like, it's down here somewhere, Elegite Candle. Just because it's not super consistent, but it is a chance for you to Death Break after using your S3. So this could be nice, just so that you have a chance to do higher damage against certain units. It depends on who your speed imprint is, really, or how they're built, because you don't need the Sash if your force unit is going to take a turn anyways. I would +4 his S3, of course, to get the 100% chance to land your burns. And then for his S2, it's just extra effectiveness. I plan on maxing this out once he hits Friendship 10. Now we have the final slot, which goes to a bunch of units. This is the Vildred that I'm using. I have mine super slow, so I do have my Westwind Executioner Schuri on Sash. If I had Vildred closer to like 200 speed, then my Schuri would probably be on Elegay Candle. But Vildred, it's just full damage. I have him on Basket for fun, just because there's no way for him to get attack buff in this comp, but you could just run like Portrait or... Actually, no, definitely not Portrait, because everything's low HP. Something like Sword of Summer Twilight. And then some other speed imprints you might find yourself using in this slot. There is... Where did he go? Watcher Schuri. He can just be on like a usual damage build. I have him on Sash so he can push up after your Detonate kills a couple of units. There's also Veronica, who maybe you'll use against some... I don't know where her boots went, but maybe you can use her against like some BBK defenses. If you... Sure. Maybe you can use her against like some BBK defenses just to secure the kill. And then other speed imprints, there's like the ones I mentioned. There's Fire Schuri, it's plus 14. Wanderer Silk is plus 14. It's just they're not like, they don't do really contribute as much to the fight as much as Vildred or Watcher Schuri, I would say. Also keep in mind their positions, because Schuri only hits the top and back slot, and you want to set up your team so that whoever you want getting the passive from Westwind Executioner Schuri to apply a bomb on their first attack is in the back. Typically it's Silverblade Aramintha, but some cases you would want Lidica in the back as well. That is it for just the general setup for this team. And now you can take a look at a bunch of hits against some of the defenses that I've been collecting and see how it goes. Starting off, we can just take a look at how the general setup for this team works against a relatively common defense variant. You have to outspeed, of course. This one was very close. You just Lidica S2 Soulburn. Aramintha pushes up with her passive, and then you use your S3. Get the AoE stun, hopefully, and the burns. Doesn't matter if DKS cleanses. Your Lidica's gonna cut your Schuri here, which is good, because you can guarantee apply the Death Break. And then you S3 for more bombs and the Detonate. Whoever manages to survive, you just clean up with Vildred. Personally, not a huge fan of hitting both Yufine plus Bunka together, but when you do that, just put Lidica in the back if you're hitting into Yufine. This is really just so that the bomb effect from Schuri's passive gets procced by Lidica instead, because if your Renewed Will doesn't proc, or I think even if it does proc, honestly, you're not going to cut this Rinak. And this way, if your Aramintha misses her stun, let's see if it happens here. Okay, well, she landed the stun, but basically when Rinak uses S2, she would S2 and then detonate the bomb and just, like, yeah. So that's basically what that bomb is there for. It's just to make it so Rinak can't actually use her S3. So here, the reason I'm not too fond of hitting into Yufine is just because if it's Holy Sack Yufine, they can get kind of annoying sometimes, but most of them are on Elbrus, and you still have a decent chance of winning even if it is on Holy Sack anyways. There is one important thing to note when you're fighting against young Yenya. It's nothing massive, it is literally just when you press Lidica S3, do not click into young Yenya, because after you use S2, you have 3 more hits before she procs her S2. Aramintha S3 is 1. Schuri S3 is going to be 1. But if you Lidica S3, since your Lidica S3 happens before Schuri goes, if you hit young Yenya, she's going to proc her S2 on the turn that Schuri S3s, He'll cleanse everything, you're going to die. Or at least your Vildred is probably going to die. And it's not going to be pretty. So just make sure you're not doing that.
이단이라면 처단해주겠어. 꼼짝 못하게 해주죠. 여신의 뜻에 따를 뿐. 영원히 잠들기를. 갈고 닦은 실력을 보여줘야겠네. 다 태워버려.
항상 미천한 것들이 적당히 내 사전에 없어.
가볼까?
우리 용병단의 승리야.
사소한 건 신경 안
실력
써.
좀 볼까? 누가 날 상대할 거지? 내 실력을 증명할까? 자, 누구부터 처리해줄까? 가장 뜨거운 불꽃으로! 지금부터가 진짜야?
벌레는 내 시야에 벗어나지 못해.
물러나지 않는다면 베어버릴 뿐. 자,
영 거슬리네. 해치워야겠어. 자, 시작이야. 알았다고. 기대해. 불꽃놀이 시간이야. 덤벼봐. 끝내버려.
최고의 쇼를 보여주지. 이 도시의 최고가 되는 머지 않았어.
본보기가 필요할 것 같네. 검을 뽑을 때가 왔네. 내 실력을 증명할 때. 갈고 닦은 실력을 보여줘야겠네. 각오해. 누가 날 상대할 거지? 지금부터가 진짜야?
현실을 외면하고 싶겠지. 적당히 내 사전에 없어.
정리해볼까?